Hi there, and welcome to this fifth flipped history video for History 424. This video has three learning intentions. The first learning intention is to explain how industrialization changed the timber industry. The second learning intention is to indicate the main areas of the timber industry on a map. And the third learning intention is to explain how industrialization changed the farming industry. And for this last learning intention, you have to keep in mind things like new crops, dairy production, and the end of the seigneurial system. The main timber industry areas were these new areas of colonization north of the St. Lawrence and also in western Quebec and up the Ottawa Valley on both sides of the river, both in Ontario and in Quebec. However, the area where the Ottawa and Gatineau rivers met, which was Hull, was the kind of main center for the timber industry in Lower Canada, and it drove the economy of this region for much of the 19th century. The timber industry shows elements of both continuity and change. Elements of continuity were how many of these men who worked in the logging camps continued to live. They lived in shanties, they worked in the wintertime, and much of the process of cutting and felling the trees and bringing the logs down the river maintained its traditional aspect. They still used axes, they used handsaws, they used carts to pull the logs and floated the logs down the river in the springtime. The Ottawa River was an industrialized river. On both sides, there were sawmills and later pulp and paper factories, all linked to the timber industry. The location of the Ottawa River was important because it was one where logs could be floated down from the hinterland, and also it was a source, especially at the Chaudière, where the falls are, for hydraulic power. These were how the sawmills were originally powered. But then later on with industrialization, of course, came steam power. So on both sides, once again, there was heavy industrialization of the river. And this extended further up on both sides, both towards the west, so there are sawmills at Deschênes, and then up near Elmer, and then also to the east towards Montreal. There found many more sawmills and pulp and paper plants. Now, gradually, pulp and paper began to not replace, but augment the sawmill process or industry. And this was due to an increase in demand for paper products, both in Canada and the United States. And one of the benefits of this area was the transportation networks that were created. So the railways that were created linked Ottawa to markets in the United States, which allowed for the products to be exported. One of the final areas of industrialization occurred on farms. As we saw last year, the agricultural situation in Lower Canada was not very good. There was over-farming, the land became less and less fertile. And one of the problems with this was the seigneurial system remained. So the actual farmers or the censitaires on the land did not have ownership of the farms. They merely rented it from the seigneurs. But beginning in the 1840s and 1850s, and then in the 1850s is when the seigneurial system was abolished, but starting in the 1840s, large seigneurs linked to the Catholic Church began to give their renters, who once again are called censitaires, the ability to be freeholders, or they were given title to their land, which allowed people to buy and sell the land. As well, there was a shift in the products that were being grown on the farm. So there was a shift away from wheat farming and towards dairy farming and also raising other forms of livestock. So especially in the Eastern Townships area, the dairy industry really started to grow. And not only were milk products being made, but cheese became one of the larger agricultural exports from Quebec, and also butter as well. And just like with the timber industry, this was due to the proximity to the American market and the ability to easily ship goods on railway. So that by the turn of the century, the dairy industry became the most important part of the agricultural economic aspect of the greater economy in Quebec. And this was also coupled with the beginnings of mechanization on farms. So while maybe in the north, in those areas of colonization, a lot of the farming was still done in a very traditional way. Down in the south, on the old seigneuries, more and more people began to use new machines and a more industrial process for farming. All right, well, thanks for watching. While you're doing your summary, I want you to consider the following essential question. How did industrialization change society?